I was checking my horoscope and it looks like Mercury is in Gatorade yet again. So while I deal with the next 20 years of bad luck, or whatever that means, we might as well discuss a little X-Files. Today we're going to be taking a look at Syzygy, episode 13 of season 3. Syzygy brings our agents to a small town where two girls are causing quite the ruckus on their birthdays, and Scully may be a tad jealous of yet another woman. The episode begins at a memorial for a high school student, and is that who I think it is? Canada's very own Ryan Gosling? Don't worry, Mr. Gosling, because you'll be Knuff one day. There's apparently been a rash of murders recently, and the kids here all think some satanic cult is to blame. I wonder if the PTA is involved. These Satanists had better watch out though, because these teens are ready to fight back.
So we gotta kick some butt. Gotta kick some butt.
Whoa, time out. You're not using that f***ing language on my channel, you little c***er. After Ryan's little outburst, he goes off to pout when two lovely young ladies, Terry and Margie, confide in him. These Satanists have a thing for young blonde virgins, so unless they lose their virginity soon, they could be next.
Maybe if we weren't virgins, we wouldn't be so scared.
Something tells me he's not so sad about his dead friend anymore. The next morning, police arrive where Ryan's abandoned truck is found, and it looks like he's just out hanging around. The police claim it to be a suicide, but if they just climb the rocks, you'll see he had some help. Also, can they not hear the giggling schoolgirls? Mulder and Scully are brought on the case by a detective, Angela White, who thinks this murder may be the result of a satanic cult, which seems to be the prevailing theory amongst all the townsfolk. Of course, Scully has to point out that the FBI has debunked these claims of satanic cults and murders in the past, but she seems extra snarky today.
You don't suppose she's a virgin, do you?
I doubt she's even a blonde.
The school's principal, Bob Spitz, well, that's an unfortunate name, comes in ranting and raving about Satanists and how they need to protect the kids, when suddenly the casket just bursts into flames. I love how everyone freaks out, but these two barely even react. I guess it's understandable when every funeral they go to is just insane. Maybe they should talk to the two young girls here that don't even flinch? Well, they do just that. Both girls give their recollection of what happened the night Loverboy jumped, and if he did jump from that height or was pushed, his head would have came right off.
And saying things. The man with the knife raised the knife up over the baby.
The two girls claim Satanists killed their friend in some bizarre sacrifice, despite no evidence of the girls' claims popping up. They do have the burnt casket though. But why would the body still be left inside? Scully thinks maybe the embalming fluid caused a chemical reaction or something, but Mulder and Detective White both seem to see a horny beast burnt into his chest. Sorry, a horned beast.
If it's not too big a deal, maybe you can get me a few photographs of that thing which bears absolutely no resemblance to a horned beast.
Sure, fine. Whatever.
Mulder meets with White at her house to first apologize for Scully's behavior, and two, see if she wants to solve the mystery of the horned beast. This brings them to an astrologer who thinks they're just messing with her. She really isn't much help though, because it's after work hours, so they'll have to come back later. You know, if your town is so afraid of Satanists, maybe don't have a goat as the school mascot. Terry and Margie are judging which boys are the cutest on the basketball team when these two beanpoles here decide to start fighting.
Scott Simmons, Babe Alicious in overtime team. Minus the Brenda appendage.
Sure, Scott is dreamy, but that's Paula, not Brenda, granddaughter of Mr. Chaco. Whatever you do though, don't eat their chicken. It's a special recipe. The two girls have the special ability to speed up footage to make it look like Brenda falls a lot faster than she really does. Hey, they just bought those outfits. Now he really has to die. And he sure does when he runs under the bleachers to grab the basketball, only for the entire thing to suddenly close up on him. Mulder and Scully arrive on the scene, and I don't know about you, but this guy looks really suspicious. That mustache definitely says Satanist. They don't uncover much here as they're too busy bickering with one another, but Detective White informs them of an angry mob that gathered on the south side of town. When they arrive, the townsfolk are apparently digging for supposed mass graves.
And not one of them has turned up a single shred of evidence to support the wild allegations. I found bones! She found bones!
Scully claims everything is nonsense like usual until the townsfolk actually do find some bones, and the look on Mulder's face says it all. I don't know about you though, but these bones don't exactly look human. That doesn't stop the angry mob from thinking they're the bones of children, however. To add more fuel to the fire, the bag containing the bones belongs to the town's pediatrician, so he might have some explaining to do. The angry mob arrive at his place at probably the worst possible time, and I'm gonna leave it at that. The doc claims he sold the bag to the young Roberts girl and has no idea why it was buried out in the field and full of bones.
The bones turned out to be the skeletal remains not of an infant, but of a beloved 14-year-old Lhasa Apso, formerly known as Mr. Tippy.
Mulder then awkwardly brings up that someone is wearing his favorite perfume, which is kind of odd. Scully pulls him out of the room to give him an earful, but he's still too busy trying to figure out who smells so good. When Scully realizes he's talking about Detective White, well, she's had just about all she can take and walks off in a huff. Later that night, Terry and Margie are having a blast at their birthday party, but who invited these killjoys? The girls then play with a Ouija board, spirit board. I don't want to get sued by Hasbro. Brenda gets upset because the board tells her she's gonna marry Satan, so she runs off to the bathroom.
Bloody Mary, 2 Bloody Mary, 3 Bloody Mary, 4 Bloody Mary.
Cool, now do Candyman.
Be my victim.
Brenda tries to leave, but the girls use their spooky mind powers to lock her inside. Meanwhile, at a local motel, Mulder drinks vodka and Scully smokes cigarettes, two things they're both known for. Scully is also acting super jealous, and it's adorable.
Detective White could use our help.
Detective White knocks on Mulder's door because she has something she wants to show him. Oh no, it looks like someone took her weird-looking cat. Mulder gives her a hug to, comfort her and smell her, I guess. She's definitely uncomfortable with it, well, until seconds later when she decides she's gonna be spending the night. And now it looks like Mulder's the one who's uncomfortable. He really seems to panic too when she starts to loosen up her clothing.
Maybe we can solve the mystery of the horny beast.
I think I downloaded the wrong X-Files.
Look.
Well, that's awkward, but he did it to himself when he left the door wide open. For someone that doesn't care about him, Scully sure gets jealous. Mulder takes White's car, so Scully and White can have a little girl-to-girl bonding experience. How did these two ladies manage to leave their own birthday party after Brenda was killed? Did the police not think it was important to maybe question them? But who cares, because Scott is now single. Although he seems to actually have some morals, unlike his buddy earlier, who was all gung-ho for a threesome right after his friend died. Mulder meets back with the astrologer so she can finally explain the plot and let us all know just what the f*** is going on.
Once every 84 years, Mercury, Mars, and Uranus come into conjunction.
Uranus.
Only this year, Uranus is in the house of Aquarius.
Oh no, I'm in Aquarius. Alright, this lady just drops a bunch of gobbledygook, but it basically comes down to planet alignments and energy converging on people born on a specific day, which just so happens to coincide with the birthdays of the two girls, leading to some bad juju. Scott gets back to his home, but Margie was hiding in the back of his truck because she didn't want him to be alone. Then Terry comes storming in and the two girls have a little standoff, flinging metal springs everywhere.
Bleeding. So are you.
And poor Scott, who wanted nothing to do with either of them, is the one that ends up paying for it when he takes a metal spring right to his chest. Mulder then gets a call from Margie saying she knows who the killer is. Meanwhile, Scully and Detective White get stopped by the angry mob, who instead of carrying pitchforks and torches, are carrying flashlights and shotguns. Terry somehow finds Scully and White to tell them she knows who the killer is. Both girls basically accuse the other one of being the murderer, which puts Mulder and Scully at odds. However, Mulder thinks they should bring in both of the girls so they can get their statements and maybe find out who's telling the truth.
I want to get them both in and get a formal statement, clear this thing up, okay?
Sure, fine, whatever.
When the two girls are brought together at the police station, things go way out of control. The only option Mulder has is to lock both girls in a closet together and wait until the whole thing blows over. And thank God for this Canadian-made clock to let us know when it does. When the closet is open, the girls are huddled together, frightened and scared. But nothing 25 years behind bars can't solve.
You just ran a stop sign back there, Scully.
Shut up, Mulder.
Sure, fine, whatever.
I really enjoy this episode. It's silly as hell, but the agents' interactions with one another and how their personalities completely shift is always entertaining. I don't really care for the X-File itself. I'm not into astrology or numerology, so that's not really interesting. The episode is a bit disjointed, and I don't know if astrology and satanic panic really mesh well together. I mean, it makes for some funny bits, but just from the story perspective, I'm not sure it really fits. Scully's jealousy is really the highlight of the episode for me. She's so snarky throughout the entire thing and almost a completely different character, but I guess that is supposed to be the point. The alignments of the planets had an effect on everyone, bringing things to the surface that I'm sure they do feel, but maybe can't admit or really don't want to bring up. Like how Scully gets all sassy about driving the car. Maybe she does want to drive more often and feels because Mulder is the man that he's supposed to. Although Scully has driven in the past, and this was mainly added because people online were always crying about how she never gets to drive. The biggest takeaway from the episode though is how popular the line "sure, fine, whatever" has become within the fanbase. IMDb has this one at 7.6, and I would probably go with a 7. It's not perfect, but this is a comfort food episode. The episode received mixed reviews from critics and fans, with fans not really liking it because they wanted to see Mulder and Scully get involved with one another. Anytime you include another man or woman for the agents to show any kind of interest in, it seems to cause a fervor within a certain group of the fan base. Chris Carter even threw a little shade at the fans, claiming they didn't understand the satirical nature of the episode. The episode was written by Chris Carter and directed by Rob Bowman, and was kind of a rush job due to the Christmas holiday, and because of this, Rob felt he wasn't able to do Chris's script justice. In the book X-Files Confidential, Rob said, "The show proved to be much more difficult than I anticipated, and there wasn't enough time to shoot the show properly because we were so close to the Christmas break. I felt extremely pressured and frustrated, although there are things in it I love, particularly the banter between Mulder and Scully, but overall I thought the show was very oblique. I don't feel that the characters ever knew what was going on, and I don't think it was all that cool that kids are murdering people. I didn't feel like I was shooting an episode of the X-Files, and I think I let Chris Carter down a bit." The episode was also largely inspired by the satanic panic of the 1980s, where people believed there was all this satanic ritualistic abuse going on, even if none of it could actually be substantiated, but it did lead to the Tom Hanks movie Mazes and Monsters, which basically claims something like Dungeons and Dragons could lead people to becoming Satanists, when in reality it's just a bunch of nerds yelling lightning bolt at one another. The name of the episode, Syzygy, is taken from astronomy and is when 3 or more celestial bodies like planets, moons, or stars all line up. During the scene in the motel room when Mulder is trying to change channels on the TV and every channel is showing the same movie, the movie being shown was supposed to be the Stanley Kubrick film A Clockwork Orange, but the rights to use it were too costly for the producers, so they instead used Keystone Cops, which were featured in silent comedy films during the 1910s. There's also a little joke at David's expense in the episode. The name of the school, Grover Cleveland Alexander, is actually a reference to a question on Jeopardy that David got wrong when he was on the show, which the previous episode War of the Copperphages also did, when Scully was reading Breakfast at Tiffany's, which was a reference to another question that David was asked. Obviously, in the beginning of the episode, Ryan Reynolds has a small role as one of the high school kids. This was one of his earlier roles, but he's obviously gone to be something of a megastar within Hollywood. Wendy Benson played Margie. She's an American-born actress appearing in small supporting roles for film and TV. She's appeared in films like Wishmaster and Burlesque, and has had reoccurring roles in shows like Desperate Housewives and Unhappily Ever After. Lisa Robin Kelly played Terry and is most known for her role as Lori Foreman on the hit sitcom That 70s Show. Unfortunately, years of substance abuse led to her being removed from the show, even being replaced by another actress. Trouble with the law and a turbulent marriage forced Lisa into rehab, but unfortunately, just days into her stay, she was found dead in her sleep due to an accidental overdose. Lastly, Dana Wheeler Nicholson played Detective Angela White. She is most well known for her roles in the films Fletch and Tombstone, alongside some reoccurring roles in shows like Nashville and Friday Night Lights. She briefly dated David for a short time, even accompanying him to the Golden Globes. Her grandfather was also Malcolm Wheeler Nicholson, founder of National Allied Publications, which would later become DC Comics. Dana is still acting today, and most recently can be found in an episode of Law & Order SVU. Syzygy is a fun episode. It's not perfect, and the way Mulder and Scully treat each other may turn some fans off, but overall I think it's fun and comes recommended. Next up is a much darker episode as Mulder becomes involved with a case about a serial killer who thinks he's under the control of a demon in the episode Grotesque. So what do you think of Syzygy? Let me know down in the comments. Anyways, that's all for today. I hope you had a great weekend, and as always, stay spooky.
Friday.
I found bones!
A mysterious killer is preying on a small town.
There's been another death.
Could it be the work of the devil?
My kids say they can feel Satan's presence.
or something even more terrifying?
I know who the killer is.
The X-Files, a brand new episode Friday at 9, 8 Central.